Now that we've learned and internalized all of our 5 basic movable scale shapes on the guitar neck, let's do some drills on how to really weave them together. I want to sew these shapes together so that I can move freely from one to the other and still really know where I am. We're going to start with our C shape and our B flat shape. The way I practice shifting from one shape to the other is that I practice the shift on each string separately. For instance, our C shape starts with a note on the A string. So on the very next string, the D string, I'm going to practice that shift. And I do each of the 4 exercises that we learned when we learned our scale shapes, starting with just the scale up and down, lower octave only, shifting on the D string. I usually like to practice my shifts where I wait to the very last minute and then I have to shift. That way, I'm not shifting needlessly or training my hand to shift when it doesn't have to. But sometimes I'll shift just if the framework of the movable scale makes more sense shifting at that point. And I'll try to point that stuff out as I go along. I also like to practice the arpeggio shifted up the same way, shifting each string. I do that arpeggio in between each exercise. The second exercise, up 2 steps and down a third. Shift. And on the way down, down 2 steps and up a third. That's an example of shifting when the framework makes sense instead of waiting to the last minute. Where I could have waited to the last minute. Either way is fine. It's probably best to let your fingers learn to shift any way they need to rather than drilling and marrying your fingers to the right way to shift that you decide. The third exercise, up a third and down 2 steps. On the way down, down 2 steps and up a third. Notice on the way up, I shifted based on the framework, and then on the way down, I shifted last minute. There's no rhyme or reason. It happens differently every time. The third exercise, up a third and down 2 steps. I'm going to skip the arpeggios in between, but when I practice them, I always do the arpeggio in between. The fourth exercise, I do 2 different ways when I'm shifting between movable scale shapes. The first way, I'm shifting those thirds up the string that I'm focusing on. So in this case, the D string. The second way, I actually like to do intervals on the next string up. Did you see how instead of jumping around the string I'm shifting on, I just used the next string up and did intervals all the way up? Now we're going to shift on the next string after that, the G string. First we go up and down the scale. I'll do 1 octave if the shift is happening in the middle of the scale, but when the shift is happening near the octave transition, I'll do both octaves to make sure that I know where that shift is relative to the upper or the lower octave. Here's the arpeggio shifting on the G string. Remember to do those arpeggios in between each exercise. I'm not going to do it because we've got a lot of ground to cover. The second exercise, up 2 steps and down a third. The third exercise, up a third and down 2 steps. Ah! If it would be easier for you to follow along with tablature, just click the link below. There'll be a free download. The fourth exercise, up a third, down a step, all the shifts on the G string. Now, the fourth exercise, up a third, down a step, with the shifts moving to intervals between the G string and the B string. And don't forget the arpeggio between each exercise. Now we're going to put all the shifts on the B string. And the arpeggio with the shifts on the B string. For the rest of the exercises, we can actually just do the upper octave. Second exercise, up 2 steps and down a third. Third exercise, up a third and down 2 steps. Now the fourth exercise, all the shifts on the B string. Now the fourth exercise, and we're going to do the shifts as intervals between the B and the E string. This is a cool one because literally the whole exercise will be those intervals. The value of practicing the shifts on each one of these strings is that you're going to teach your fingers to always know where they are, to always know where the sounds are that are available. That way, you're not having to think about it in your head. You want to express your music with your mind and with your heart, and you want to let your hands know how to get the sounds that you're trying to say. Does that make sense? So take this slow and practice this until you really have it down. And next, we're going to do the transition from that B flat shape to an A flat shape.